Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in. All of the products that will be used in today's video will be conveniently linked for you in the description box below. No need to go searching for these items, just click on the link and make your purchase. Now let's get started. Welcome to my fourth and final video of the All About Football mini-series. I hope you have enjoyed the previous 3 videos, and I hope you enjoy this video as well. This is probably my favorite of the 4, and I hope you enjoy it and love it as much as I do. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to be starting with, this is just a piece of wood that I've had for several years, and we're going to paint this part brown and part green. Now it is already stained a brown color, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and paint it brown anyway. So just any piece of wood that you want to use for this project is perfectly fine. I will list the dimensions in the description box in case you're interested in making one this same size. The first thing that I did was I took measurements to find the middle portion of the wood. And this is because, once again, we are going to be painting it half brown and half green. So just find your middle point, and then I just put some electrical tape down for the middle, and we're going to go ahead and paint one half of the board. Also, let me mention, whatever piece of wood that you have, be sure it is smooth, sanded down. It's okay if when you paint it, you can still see some of the wood grain, but you do want it to be completely smooth, as the paint will show any sort of defects or rough spots in the wood, and it's just not going to look as pretty. So make sure it is sanded down and smooth, ready for your paint. And I'm just taking a mixture of different acrylic paints that I had lying around the house. I will be sure to list the shades of greens that I used in case you want to match this shade exactly, because it did turn out to be the green that I wanted. As far as ratio of the paint that I used to get the color, I mean, I didn't do any sort of measuring or anything like that, but again, I will list the paint colors for you in case you want to mix up your own and make your own shade of green. Okay, and once your paint is dry, you are now ready to go ahead with your first coat of epoxy and glitter mixture. So a couple of things, I actually opted out of painting the left side brown because of 2 reasons. One, I actually didn't have any brown paint on hand, so that's a very good reason. But 2, I mean, it was already stained a brown, and so I just didn't, again, I didn't have any paint to paint it, and I didn't feel like going out and buying any since it was already brown. However, if you are working with a raw piece of wood that is untreated, unstained, unpainted, go ahead and paint your other side brown after your green dries, and then you're ready for this step. So I'm going to be using Pickle from Recollections for my glitter on the green side, and I believe I purchased this from Hobby Lobby, but I think I purchased it a couple of years ago, so I will check and see if it is still available. If not, I will see if Walmart carries it, and I will link it if so. And then I just mixed up approximately 80 milliliters of epoxy and split that into 2 different cups so I could do green and brown. Now, a couple of things here. For my epoxy, even though this is my bottom layer and nothing is going to be touching this layer, I still used food grade safe epoxy. And I will link that for you in the description box. And even when I'm using food grade safe epoxy, I still don't recommend like sitting food just on top of the tray. I still, recommend to people like use some parchment paper, or what I like to use is like those cupcake wrappers, and you can put, several little pieces of cheese in there, or sausages, or nuts if you're doing like a fruit and or a nut and cheese board, whatever. It is food grade safe epoxy, but again, I still don't like to just sit my raw food on top of it. But I guess that's personal preference. But anytime you're using a tray for, food purposes, try to use the food grade safe epoxy. It just makes me feel better as a maker. If I'm gifting it to someone or someone's purchasing it, it just makes me feel better to use the food grade safe epoxy. I have heard that all epoxy is considered safe once it has cured for a certain amount of time. But again, if it is specifically food grade safe, that's what I like to use. So, enough about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is um, this is going to be up to you as to how much glitter you want to use. I did not use a lot of glitter. I wanted the texture of the wood to sort of show through. And once you add the epoxy, it really does. It really makes the wood grain pop. And I wanted it to be that way. If you do not want the wood to show, then by all means, use a mica powder, some sort of colorant, use a little bit more glitter. That's totally up to you. I did not use a lot of glitter. And you also, for this layer, don't want to use a lot of epoxy. This is sort of this is your base layer. We're going to be doing at least 2 or 3 more layers of epoxy on this tray. So you don't have to use a lot of epoxy here. You do, however, want to make sure that it is enough that it's going to cover the entire surface that you're working with. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit more electrical tape to prevent the epoxy from running over into the brown side. You can add some saran wrap, some parchment paper, wax paper, anything like that to cover the side of your board if you want. But if you get it level, like you saw me do, I added these little paint risers and I took my level to make sure it was level, then you shouldn't really have a whole lot of running with your epoxy. Another thing you can do that I did not do, you can tape up the sides and bottoms of your tray. Again, I only had a little bit of dripping once I got to the brown side, and I will show you how to remove that easily. But I didn't have a lot of overflow. And again, partly is because I did not use a lot of epoxy. I do like to use, thinner layers of epoxy, even if it means having to do a couple more layers. I just like to do that. It's a lot of preparation, taping off the sides and the bottoms. It is a great thing to do to prevent the epoxy from getting to the underside or the sides of the tray. But, again, all of that is personal preference. If you are a beginner, I would say do it for sure. When I first started making trays and working with epoxy, I had horrible overspill. But I've sort of learned now how much epoxy to use and how to spread it so that it doesn't drip over the sides. So, it's just practice, but definitely tape it off if that makes you feel more comfortable. Just remember to remove the tape about, I don't know, 30 minutes into it setting on your tray. Go ahead and remove it so it doesn't cure to the tray. And and then once you have one side done, I did go ahead and go straight in with my other side. Again, this is a preference. If you want to let that cure and then do your other side, you go ahead. That's perfectly fine. I went ahead and went in with my brown side, and I was just very careful not to get the greens and browns mixed at the middle point. I believe it did pretty good. I think there was one little spot that maybe mixed a little bit, but we're going to add some pinstriping down the center anyway. And, that's also a choice. If you don't want to add the pinstriping, you don't have to. I felt like it just needed something to define each side. So I did, later on, you will see I did add some pinstriping down the center. But you're just going to smooth that out with your gloved hand or finger and wipe down any sides that might be having epoxy run over, and then let that cure. And I'm going to go ahead and keep the video at normal speed for the green side so that you can just sort of see how I work with my finger, being careful not to drip any to the sides, and then wiping it down with another gloved finger if it does drip off to the side. And then once we get to the brown section, I am going to go ahead and speed that up just a little bit since you have been able to see how I've done the green side. And one other thing I want to point out quickly is you can see toward the bottom of the green side how it looks like there are lines going through, that section. And it looks at first like that's where my finger spread it out. And I did spread it out with my finger in that area. However, that is the wood grain. So it's, once you put that glitter and epoxy over the wood grain, it really makes that pop. So even though I did spread that out with my finger in that section, that's not a finger mark. That is the actual wood grain. See how it's like showing up and really being prominent in that section. So I think that's a really cool look. If you do not prefer that look, just keep that in mind. And once you have spread your epoxy on one side, be sure to go ahead and pop any bubbles that may be there, and then you're ready for the next side. And this is where we're going to go ahead and speed the video up. So once that has cured, then you're ready for your vinyl work. For the brown side, I just cut a football, lace, and stripes out of white glitter vinyl. And for the green side, I cut yard lines out of the same white glitter vinyl. And for some reason, the middle part of the zeros didn't get cut out. So I just went in with a green marker and put a little dot in the center. And then once your vinyl is complete, then you are ready to make the handles for the tray. You can do this a couple of different ways. One, you can purchase handles from Amazon, and I will link those for you. Or you can do what I did, which is use a tray handle mold and make your own. So we're going to go ahead and mix up some resin. We're using for this, we are using Let's Resin's Fast Cure epoxy, and then we're just going to make a brown side and a green side. And the fun part about this is if you wanted to make this a specific football team tray, you could do like orange and gray. You could do, purple and gold, whatever your football team is. And for me, I put the brown handle on the football side and the green handle on the grass side, but you could always swap that up also. I actually contemplated doing it that way to begin with, but opted out of that and went with brown on brown and green on green. But again, have fun with it, mix it up, coordinate it however you want. But we're going to do that, and then we're ready for our next step. So we're going to go ahead and place our resin onto the tray and then put our handles on the tray where we want them. I did measure to sort of see where on the tray I wanted them to be, and also so that they would be fairly even and not be wonky and offset. So, and then once that cures, we're going to go ahead and add our striping. And I just used some of this nail tape that I purchased from Amazon. I put 2 green stripes down on the center and then a brown holographic pinstripe on top of the green ones. Once that was done, then I did go in with a final coat of my food grade safe epoxy, and this beautiful football themed tray is complete. I just love it so, so much. I hope you did too. And one last thing before we are finished with this tray, I do have a little bit of dripping onto the side of the tray. All you have to do is take a heat gun, heat up that area, and with a craft knife, just cut that off. It comes off easily. You do not want to point the heat gun onto the tray as it could soften the epoxy, but just point it onto the area that has dripped onto the side, and it comes right off with a craft knife. So, with that being said, just a little side note, I do have these for sale on my website. So if you want to purchase one rather than make your own, feel free to go to my website and make your purchase. I have linked my website in the description box for you. And you can also customize this football tray. And those options are available on my website if you want to see what customization you can do. So, with that being said, that is the end of my football mini series. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or any requests. I'm going to show a couple of pictures of our football themed kitchen, breakfast room, and dining room so that it can give you some inspiration. There's so many things that you can do and make for the football season. It's kind of that in between, it's no longer summer, it's not quite fall where we live. But it is football season, and that gets me excited. It gets me thinking about fall and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the holidays. So while we were waiting to decorate for fall, we thought it would be a really cool idea to decorate for football. So check out these pictures, and thank you so much for tuning in to my mini series. It means so much to me that everyone takes the time to watch my videos. I know time is precious and we're all busy these days. So thank you so much for watching. It truly does mean a lot to me. And I hope everyone has a blessed day.